when we really step back and look at it from like 30,000 feet, we actually found that South Africa is not doing so badly. You know, there are actually some very, very strong aspects, and there are strong fundamentals that we can build on. For example, if we look at South Africa's environment for doing business, we are actually ahead of Turkey, Brazil, and Kenya. And also when it comes to productivity, we are actually fairly comparable to China. But what we should be concerned about is not the status quo, but the trends. Because we have been stagnating, we are stagnating, and without really doing something to promote ourselves, to accelerate ourselves, we will be overtaken by our peer countries. In our initial analysis, we also surfaced some very interesting projections. So this is an analysis based on 16 largest cities in South Africa, and it shows a really significant shift in socio-economic profile, which is happening right now in South Africa. We'll be able to reduce the percentage of struggling households by 40%, and we'll be able to increase the percentage of consuming households by 30%. But at the same time, this is also a source of discontent for South Africa. So how do we think about it as a country going forward? Secondly, we also have 6 very dynamic and upwardly mobile cities. And a lot of the growth will be fueled by these 6 different cities. We've now talked about the strong fundamentals, and we've acknowledged that. It is time that we also acknowledge that South Africa needs a new recipe for growth. Up to now, since 1994 up to now, we've been relying on the diversification of the economy, we've been relying on consumption, and we've been relying on infrastructure spend to fuel South Africa's growth. But those growth pockets are tapped out. If you look at the household debt level, if you look at the fiscal constraint, we can no longer rely on that recipe. We need to find a new one. So what is that new recipe? We need more investment, we need more export, we need to decrease our reliance on consumption and also on commodities. Because it's very clear that without a new recipe for growth, we will not be able to meet the growth target that we set ourselves as part of the National Development Plan. What you can see is that, you know, despite the natural momentum that will be in the economy, we still have a gap, a sizable gap of 1.8% to achieve our growth target. And that 1.8% is the exact same quantum as the growth that we have been able to achieve in the last 5 years. So the challenge is enormous. But the good news is there are ways to close the gap. But that means we have to be fully committed to the 5 bold priorities, and in the process to drive catalytic change into the rest of the economy.